What is going on, YouTube? Lamont at Large. Today coming to you from Laramie, Wyoming. So today I am here to talk about the Matthew Shepard murder that happened almost 22 years ago. I'm going to show you the location of the bar where Matthew met his killers, and we'll go ahead and try to find the location where his body was found tied to a fence post. So in case you're younger or you may not remember this story, Matthew Shepard was an openly gay kid. He went to the University of Wyoming, and on October 6, 1998, he had just left a gay and lesbian meeting, a student group meeting there at the university. So he leaves the group and he goes to the Fireside Lounge here in Laramie. Goes to the bar, has a beer, sit back chilling, talking to whoever at the bar. And there's also a couple of men at the bar as well, by the name of Aaron Mckinney and Russell Henderson. Now, this is where the story gets a little murky on why they even met, how they were even talking, and so forth and so on. I'll try my best to tell the story as close to what I've read as possible. Some people claim that their intention was simply to rob Matthew. And then other people say that it was nothing more than an absolute hate crime. They beat him and killed him simply for the fact of him being gay. Now, according to court testimony, one of the defendants, Russell Henderson, had said that they were just there to just rob him, and that was it. And that the plan was to pretend that they were gay to earn Matthew's trust, and then take his money or whatever. But Aaron Mckinney, who was the aggressor in the situation, who was the one that inflicted the beating on Matthew, he said that in the bar that Matthew was coming on to him and he didn't appreciate it and he didn't like it, and he wanted to quote unquote teach this dude an effing lesson. During the interview, constantly referred to Matthew as a derogatory term for gay people, which I will not repeat on this video because there's really no need. You already know what the word I'm talking about is. So they're sitting chilling at the bar for a few hours, and they earn Matthew's trust enough to invite them over to their house. I don't know what was going to happen or whatever, but they somehow got him into their truck. And then Aaron pulls out a .357 Magnum revolver and sticks it in Matthew's face and says, "Give me your money." Matthew starts pleading for his life. He's like, "Hey, leave me alone, blah, 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 what's going on?" He instructs Russell to start driving out of town, and then he starts pummeling Matthew with the gun, just beating him over the head, telling him to shut up, this and that. So this beating commences for the next 15 minutes, and a very brutal and horrible beating, if I do say so myself. So this here is the bar where on that night Matthew met up with Russell and Aaron. Now, when the story first happened, the name of the bar was called the Fireside Lounge, and at the time of his beating and his death, Matthew's parents were in Saudi Arabia. His dad had worked for a gas company out there, and this business, after the firestorm that hit, and this story went absolutely all over the place, all over the TV, all over the news, NBC, ABC, CBS, everybody was talking about this. So, of course, you're an owner of a bar and something horrible happened at your establishment, but you had nothing to do with it. Well, quickly, the owner of the bar changed the name, and nobody was coming to this bar anymore after that. This place became a very infamous spot here in Laramie. A lot of the students that this bar relies on for patronage, nobody came here anymore. The owner eventually sold the bar because of that. And over the last 22 years or so, this bar has gone over so many different owners and name changes, trying to shake off the image of what happened here. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to go try to find about the spot where Matthew Shepard was found on that night. Before we head to the site where Matthew Shepard was found, I wanted to show you guys really quickly. A lady at the tourism board across the street from that bar told me that there is a bench that was placed in memoriam for Matthew, which is on the campus of the University of Wyoming. So we're going to stop by there really quickly and go check the bench out. Okay, so we have right here a bench that was dedicated in the memory of Matthew Shepard. It's inscribed right here. Matthew Wayne Shepard, December 1st, 1976 to October 12th, 1998. Beloved son, brother, and friend, he continues to make a difference. Peace be with him and all who sit here. Okay. So now we're going to go to the location of where he was found. So it's this road we're driving on, which is Pilot Peak Road. This was the same road where Russell and Aaron were driving Matthew, threatening him, beating him unmercifully with that handgun. At the time, Russell was the one driving behind the wheel while Aaron was keeping Matthew in line, so to speak. And many people may not know this, but Matthew was only 5'2". He was 5'2" and he weighed around 100 pounds. Not a very big guy, to say the least. And so we are turning on Snowy View Road, and we're gonna drive about, I want to say right about, here. The fence post is no longer here, but this is where it was. This is where they left him here to die. So as I mentioned, this is the general area where Matthew Shepard was left here to die. He was left out here for over 18 hours, bloodied, blood caked all over his face and his hair, tied to a fence post that is no longer here. Now, October in Wyoming, very cold. We're talking about temperatures at night into the low 30s, so near freezing temperatures. Matthew was left here to die. And a passing mountain bicyclist happened to find him, and at first he thought it was a scarecrow, and then as he approached him, he said, well, what is this little kid doing out here? Because like I said, Matthew was a very slight guy. And then he realized when he got closer that it was a man. And the guy described Matthew's face as just covered in blood, but yet his cheeks were clean because the tears had washed away all the blood. And of course, that is when they called the ambulance, and the paramedics came and picked him up and seen the extent of his injuries, and they flew him to a hospital in Fort Collins, Colorado, which is about an hour or so away from here. So after flying Matthew to the hospital, imagine being his parents, having to take a 36-hour trip across the world, getting to the airport in Colorado and finding out that your son has been beaten and is on the brink of death simply for the fact of his sexual orientation. And when they got to the airport, his face is all over the news, all over TV, all over the newspapers. They get to the hospital in Fort Collins, and Matthew is in a coma for the next 4 or 5 days. But it was unfortunately too late to save Matthew. The damage that was done was irreversible. Even if he would have survived, he would have been a vegetable, unable to talk or walk for the rest of his life. The damage to his brainstem, that's how bad the beating was, is what killed him. And that's the hospital where he died. He's buried in a. He was cremated and he's interred in a columbarium in Washington D.C. So I will go out there when I get to the East Coast and show where he's interred. So the two guys, Aaron Mckinney and Russell Henderson, after they left Matthew, they ended up getting into a fight with two teenagers over some form of vandalism. And Aaron took his gun and gun whipped one of the teenagers. In fact, it was so bad, the teenager had to go to the hospital and get stitches. So they were caught. And when they searched their truck, they noticed a handgun covered in blood. So needless to say, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that these two were responsible for the murder. So they were arrested. And when they were interviewed, they basically admitted it. It didn't take much to get out of them. So they were both arrested and charged with first-degree murder and kidnapping, robbery. They robbed Matthew of his wallet. $20 bill is all he had in him, and they took his shoes. And so that tells you what kind of scumbags these guys were, to take a man's shoes. So to avoid a trial, Russell Henderson pleads guilty to first-degree murder and is sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms. Aaron Mckinney, who was the one that inflicted most of the beating, he went to trial. Now, the death penalty was on the table for both of these guys. That's why Russell took the plea, to avoid that. And Aaron Mckinney, right before the trial was supposed to start, he ended up taking a deal for the 2 consecutive life terms. And he signed a deal to where he could never try to have the charges reversed or try to file for an appeal. And during the sentencing, Aaron McKinney's scumbag lawyer, and this is why we hate lawyers, turns to the family, to the parents of Matthew Shepard, and says, "Hey, can you show pity on my client? Can you imagine that? Your son murdered, viciously, horribly murdered, and you have the nerve, the absolute gall, audacity to turn around to the parents that shouldn't have to be there because he shouldn't be dead, and to tell them to have mercy on your client. Your client didn't have mercy on Matthew. None of them did." And also the girlfriends of Aaron and Russell, they were charged with accessory and aiding and abetting. I believe they both pled to a lesser charge. They had hid Matthew's shoes that they had stole from him. It was covered in blood, and they hid their shoes and their clothing. Russell's girlfriend was sentenced to 18 months in prison. She ended up serving about 6 months, and Aaron's girlfriend, she got 6 months in jail, did a couple months and got out. So that was it, guys. That's the brutal story of Matthew Shepard. Thank you guys for watching this video. Thank you for listening to me. And I will see you on the next vlog. Have a good day. Peace out. And guys, one last message, and I don't need to tell anybody this because I think inherently we're all, got good moral values to us. Be good to each other. I don't care if you're black or white or you're gay or straight. Live and let live. That's what I got to say. Anyways, catch up with you on the next vlog. Have a good one. Peace out.